Hello, everyone. Bonjour, madame. Bonjour, monsieur. Dobry день, if we have some Ukrainian audience here. I'm very happy to introduce our guests, Lyuba Yakimchuk and Maria Reva. And I'm happy to be your moderator today. I will take a moment to introduce our guests and to read how amazing they are, actually. So I'll start with Maria. Maria Reva writes fiction and opera libretti. She's an author of Good Citizens Need Not Fear, and also The Endling, that you can see right here. In November 2022, she was proudly included in the Russian Foreign Ministry's list of sanctioned Canadian citizens who are forbidden from entering Russia. I'm so sorry. Besides of that, Maria's writing has appeared in The Atlantic, McSweeney's, The Wall Street Journal, and many, many others. She also won a National Magazine Award in 2019 and was finalist of the Writers' Trust of Canada 2020 Fiction Prize. And of course, now Maria is living in Vancouver, right? And now I want to introduce Lyuba Yakimchuk, award-winning Ukrainian writer who is an author of 3 poetry collections. One of those you can see here, it's Apricots of Donbas. It was translated into many languages. It's one of the most popular poetry collections now, not only in Ukraine, but abroad. And it was translated into English and French, together with audio version of the book in French, voiced by Catherine Deneuve. And beside of that, Lyuba is also a screenwriter. She's famous for her performances, and some of them were performed internationally together, actually with musical collaboration with John Legend during a Grammy Award in 2022. And her work has been featured also in the New York Times, BBC, CBC, France 24, CNN, many others. She's born in Luhansk region, and now Lyuba is living in Kyiv. So we have 2 outstanding writers, and I will introduce myself. I'm Iryna Baturevych. I'm a co-founder of Chitomo, which is a publishing magazine, and we are covering literature in Ukraine and in neighboring countries. Besides of that, I'm a co-founder of NGO Club Ukrainian-Canadian de Montréal. So I'm really happy to meet you here.
I need to mention, probably you can read Chitomo in English because you have really a good English version, and I can share this information with you because in France, in Paris, actually a journalist of Le Monde told me he read Chitomo actually, and an article about how Ukrainian literature exists and so on, so you can read as well.
Oh my God, thank you so much for your kind words and kind mentions. So today we're gonna speak about 2 really great books. They are very much different, but I found many matching points between Maria and Lyuba. And I want to start with a literary discussion that had started recently in Ukraine. Many literary critics faced like many books that were coming from abroad written about Ukraine. You know, some people really wanted to help. Some people wanted to contribute into the just understanding of the topic, because it was not really many books that were published about Ukraine. Some of them were really great. Some of them were a little bit, we named it exploitative prose or fiction. When you're taking one interesting topic that is just popped up in the news and you're trying to develop it. It's kind of commercial. But many literary critics were surprised how many stereotypes we saw in these books. And to be honest, there is a little bit of prejudice when a new book is coming. To be honest, I was a little bit in this on this side when I was thinking, okay, one more book on Ukraine is published. Let's see what's inside. And you know, we published, it was so much, it was so many that at some point one very prominent Ukrainian literary critic, Hanna Ulura, published an article when she tried to explain what are the most common stereotypes about Ukraine. I'm sure you can guess many. So first of all, I will just find it here. First of all, it's Ukraine is Chernobyl. So the first one. Another one is Ukraine is a land of nowhere. It's like out of nowhere, out of context. Ukraine is so bad, and living in Ukraine is so bad that it's better to escape and to look for better life in a great country where your life is going to shine. Like many people think that Ukrainians have this, I don't know, American dream, Canadian dream. And some others include, of course, sex tourism to Ukraine. All of these romance tours, etc. And of course, vodka, which is actually horilka in Ukrainian, but this endless alcoholism in the land of nowhere is like very, very, like happening very often. And you know, I'm taking the book. I'm trying not to read anything, any reviews, to have my own opinion. I like it in this way. And I'm facing this, okay, that's about romantic tours. Oh my God, like I was
more mail order brides.
I was so angry, you know, but then I started to read through this book, to read it, and okay, something is not like always. We can see a scientist who is joining romance tours, and she's asexual. Okay, something is not working
like
here.
Asexual, right? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and then we see a person who immigrated to Canada, but he is kind of jealous about coming back to Ukraine. So, like, my first question is, how did you decide to go on this like very thin ice and very risky territory of the stereotypes, combining so many together and trying kind of break it?
Yeah, it was very thin ice and probably remains thin ice. So yeah, there is that cliche of Ukrainian women and the association with mail order brides, which some of it is based on the turbulent economic times after the fall of the Soviet Union, when a lot of women did leave Ukraine marrying men abroad. So that cliche kind of stuck, even though that's not quite the reality anymore, or isn't one at all. Recently, when my sister, well, a few years ago now, she was on her way to Princeton, and she met an American fellow on the plane, and as soon as she mentioned that she was from Ukraine, the first thing he said was that he would love to have a Ukrainian girl as a wife, because American women are so ambitious and aggressive. And I would have loved to have seen my sister's face at that moment, because, I mean, she has a side shave. She's not somebody you would want to cross in an alley. And yeah, I thought, wow, so people are still saying this about Ukrainian women, Slavic women as a whole. And I went on Google and I just kind of typed in Ukraine woman, and the results were pretty shocking. And mostly they were dating websites. So I wanted to complicate that narrative and have characters who, and I didn't want to write that trope of, okay, poor Slavic girl marries rich Western man, right? I wanted to go against that trope and write kind of an opposite story where the women you meet in this book actually don't want to get married. And the person who was most wanting to get married is Pasha, who's our Canadian fellow, who's kind of a reverse mail order bride, as in he is outpriced in Canada because of our living expenses going through the roof, and he wants to go to Ukraine and have a better life, a cheaper, better life in Ukraine by marrying a Ukrainian girl. Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure that this is a very complicated topic, and I had this feeling that you started to write this novel like much earlier than the full-scale invasion started.
Yeah.
And it was, I felt like, was it any trouble with the publisher? Because the expectations, again, what we're facing in publishing industry or in like not literary community, but the demand for mainstream literature on these topics, where you have Chernobyl, like sex tours and so on, is like really high. People are interested in that, and publishers possibly want to publish like something similar, because it's the topic. It's not risky, but I can't imagine how this book appeared to be published, since it's like putting everything like upside down.
Yeah, I think the choice to do this was fully my choice, and nobody asked me to write into these topics. But I think my publisher, the risk they took with this is the experimentation within it, because without spoiling too much, halfway through it becomes a completely different book. It becomes kind of this non-book book. And I think that was a real risk on their part. It could have really not gone over well with readers, but luckily it has.
Yeah. I will pass over to Lyuba, because I'm pretty sure that as a writer, you're also dealing with lots of stereotypes. And as a Ukrainian writer, you possibly dealing with stereotypes towards yourself. I can imagine people who are coming to your presentations expecting to hear the tragedy, you know.
Of course.
like a tragedy that doesn't allow any other emotions.
And
at the
that's
same time, when you're opening your book, you have like so different range of senses, emotions, and it resonates a lot, I think, with Ukrainians. But do you think that other people are accepting it well? Do you think you are able to satisfy this demand for tragedy?
Yeah, you're right. Ukraine is often seen through war, and war is all the time it's tragedy. But talking about Ukrainian literature history, we have lots of great piece of literature about war, but they are funny. For instance, Eneida by Kotlarevsky. This is funny, like version of Eneida about how it's called in English. I forgot this word. Eneid or
Yeah, Eneid.
Eneid. And but it's funny. There are lots of stuff about food, about lots of joke, lots of erotical scenes as well. And Ukrainian literature is always like this. We even about war, we can like create something with jokes. We can create pieces with jokes, with irony, self-irony as well. This is our approach probably to resist, because Ukraine, like this is place where lots of war waged before even this full-scale invasion of Russia. And this is place where we all the time we needed to survive, and this is the way, real way to survive, to create jokes, to think about to create something vital actually. And talking about this stereotype, I usually try to read a poem about sex or erotical scenes and so on. In the same time, they are about war as well. And it's, of course, can break these stereotypes. So you're right. It's not only about tragedy. We have lots of fun in Ukraine right now. And during wartime, everything, all emotion became more strong, intense. And I didn't feel happiness like during this wartime actually before. And this is strange because we have lots of opposition like feeling inside us. This is strange, but it looks like this actually.
Have you ever felt, because not everybody has this, that people are not that open maybe to these experiences, especially if they are far away from Ukraine. You're trying to go through all of these events, through the news, through the tragedy, actually.
Why don't you cry? This question, you know, I heard it. Why don't you cry? Are you from Ukraine? Why you look so good, so beautiful? Your hair are clean. You know, it's like strange for me. I need to be in dirt. Probably I don't know, because I came from our country. It doesn't work like this in Ukraine. And you know, in this nowadays, like we have. We have lots of access for everything in Ukraine. We have restaurants, they are open. I can go there. Of course, we have curfew, and you can go to a restaurant after midnight. Like now in Ukraine, it's almost 1 a.m. I have jet lag, because that's why I am thinking about it. Okay, but it looks like this. Life is continuing in Ukraine, and this is okay for us. This is not the Second World War, which we learned from this awful films. Like it's also stereotypes, and also during the Second World War, people spent their lives, they loved and be loved, and it wasn't like in this documentary, for instance.
Thank you. But I was thinking that maybe these people who are not really that much open to other experiences, they just build their image in their mind about how it should be felt, like the war, right? Have you ever faced some kind of canceling, you know, because like some taboo topics for some audiences, because now we can see how many troubles we have in the US, for example, right, with banning the books or with banning some initiatives. And I suppose it may happen. It's actually the question to both of you. I'll start with Lyuba to continue and then ask Maria.
What is the question about?
The question is, have you ever been cancelled? Cancelled as a voice of Ukraine? Have you ever felt that you can't talk about some issues?
I didn't, actually. Why? We do not have censorship, actually, in Ukraine, and I'm not under. I do not live under occupation. Only under occupation you can experience the censorship created by Russia, of course. But in Ukraine, this is free state, and I didn't experience something like this, actually, and it sounds for me really odd.
Thank you. And how about you? Have you ever felt anything like that?
I guess I've only, as you mentioned when you read my bio, I've only been banned from entering Russia, so I suppose I am censored there, but oh well, I'm not too upset about that.
Well, congratulations about that.
Thank you.
Amazing. And I think you're asking this, not asking, but you're kind of discussing or making me think, or the audience think about the question, who is actually authorized to write about war, about Ukraine, and about Ukrainian experience. It feels like you are looking for the answer, and you are vocal about your experience, because you are also of Ukrainian region, and you have your own vision on that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the question my book asks, is who gets to write about war? Yeah. And so I was 4 years into writing this book when Russia launched its full-scale invasion, and I gave up on the book for a time because I didn't know what my place was as a writer, and I didn't know, you know, as a diaspora member, what contribution could I make? And but I realized that there are so many of us who are watching war from abroad that it's this kind of splitting of reality that a lot of us are facing. And it's a very particular kind of mental state to be in. It's very isolating. So I wanted to write into that experience. Yeah. And when I went to Ukraine, it was about a year into the full-scale invasion. I went on a trip to see my family and to just kind of try to grasp the situation there, that's when I started writing again. It just, that's just how it happened. So I just couldn't not write. Yeah.
So you tried to make your own research, coming back and tracing back to the to Ukraine and to your maybe childhood, and did you feel like big difference between what you imagined before and when you came there?
Like when I went to Ukraine for the trip, let's see. Even though I have relatives there, and we have regular contact with them, my impression of Ukraine still, a lot of it was formed by the headlines, and it really does create this impression that every square inch of the country is burning and being destroyed. And of course, there are parts that are absolutely obliterated, but it is not the entire country. And like what you were saying about, it's not like everyone there is sitting there like crying all the time and, with the dirt on their faces. It's not like that. Like, yeah, the theaters are open. The theaters are very actively open. Opera houses are full. Nail salons, people are getting their nails done. It's, people are trying to, those who have stayed are trying to live, grasp, like have a sense of normalcy as best they can.
Yeah, that's actually amazing. And Lyuba, the same question.
Yeah, talking about theater, this winter we didn't had electricity, and even heat sometimes at all. And in cold theater, people was sitting in quads because they wanted to see this play, this performance. It's probably strange, but in Ukraine, people need art. We need art, literature, theater, cinema, and we have lots of sold out there. It's not possible to buy, for instance, ticket for performance created by Urivsky. This is Ukrainian director. You need to do this 3 months in advance, but you have just only kind of 20 minutes to do this. It's almost not possible to see this performance. And also publishing market is rising since 2022, and this is also strange. We have lots of new publishers right now in Ukraine, and people need to read need books because probably culture shapes our identity, and we need to understand yourself in time of war. We need to understand who we are right now, how we are changing right now, and it's also interesting because culture in Ukraine, nowadays culture like restaurants, for instance, and also culture itself, like theaters, it's really something we needed during this time.
I can add on that because I visited Ukraine in January. It was exactly these blackouts and like very complicated situation, but we planned the event. We have this award for the publishers and literary community, Chitoma Award. And when I came to Kyiv, from safe Canada, I was like, oh my God, should we even push with this event? People possibly have their troubles, they are thinking how to warm themselves. They don't need any awards. We should cancel. And but we started to ask people around, do you think it's okay? And everybody, yeah, sure, we are coming. What are you talking about? We need that. And it's so much true. So I was wondering about, first of all, it's just a little anecdote, of course. But coming back to the books, I wanted to ask you about these contradictions in your book, because sometimes, I'm speaking about Endling now, sometimes you are trying to, to play with your reader, to throw in the face something that will make person angry. And then when the person is already angry, your other character is saying, oh, it's so bad. And you're like, yeah, true, it's so bad. And so you're playing with these contradictions. And I'm trying to imagine your perfect reader. And you're you're speaking about the conflict of, different waves of diaspora. You're speaking about different opinions, even between Ukrainians. You're speaking about Westerners who are approaching like Ukrainian topic with these romance tours, and brides who actually don't want to get married or have any affairs. So I can't understand. Of course, I know that people are not writing to target some perfect reader, but if you would imagine, who is it? Can you describe?
Wait, so the book makes people angry? Is that what you're saying?
Well,
Love it.
Well, it is, and if it targeting such a painful points for so many of us, because I was enjoying some of the parts of the book, but I know that it will push the right button in other communities, and they may be not happy about that. But it's I haven't felt so emotional about any other novel, so I think it's great. But I'm wondering about whom you are imagining as your reader when you wrote this novel.
I think for this particular book, I really tried to imagine that no one would read it because I was
Makes sense.
because I was targeting so many of these potentially painful points, and I think the book is most critical of the character who is the author writing this book, right? She's the one who's really on the chopping block, and that was okay with me. So I just kind of focused on that. I don't deliberately try to make anybody angry, I don't think. I think I start to really connect with my characters, and whatever it is that they are feeling or subjected to, that's just where the story has to go.
Oh, okay, makes sense. But that's, I think, will secure the widest audience possible, and I'm really happy about that. And also, it's super interesting if you, person who is interested in writing and creative writing. I think it's an amazing example, and it's super honest for me about the process of creation of the novel, the process of writing. It's a very interesting book for everybody who is trying to write something for themselves. I think it's a special target audience here. And I have the same question to Lyuba, because you was writing your poetry in Ukrainian, and it was a result of 10 years, like starting from 2014 or 13, right? And I think that now it became so much popular among different countries, different audiences. Of course, the perception is different, but whom do you want to target, and whom do you want to talk with first of all?
It was written for Ukrainians, actually, and I was surprised that lots of publishers abroad wants to publish it. Actually, and it's understandable abroad. I was here in Canada in 2016, probably, and I read some poetry from this book when they weren't published at the time in the USA in English, for instance. And I was surprised it works abroad. I cannot write just for me, but it's only me who decide how this poetry will work, on how it's gonna be. In Ukraine, for instance, free poetry isn't really popular, but my book is, and it depends. We have lots of rhymes in Ukrainian poetry. This is slabotonic poetry, which is popular in Ukraine. This is not 808 sirens, but sounds like this. Yes, but I'm trying not to simplify, actually, and this is only me who decide how it's gonna be. Yeah.
and it finds, I think it finds a response. I want to ask you maybe to come to the readings of like a little pieces of your works, and one piece that actually I liked a lot was about a big Canadian dream that many maybe Ukrainians or immigrants are pursuing. And we have this character, Pasha. Pasha came to Canada, and he was on his way to become a very successful man. And I just want Maria to introduce this little piece about his way of thinking about Ukraine.
Okay, awesome. So this is Pasha while he's still in Canada, and he's about to embark on one of these romance tours to go to Ukraine and meet the woman of his dreams. None of Pasha's plans had panned out. His excellent grades landed him a job at a prestigious engineering firm, but he could barely afford to pay both his student loans and the rising rent. He shared an apartment with 2 roommates, rode to work on a sweaty bus in which a drunk man had once vomited on him. On drier days, he biked to work. Oh, this is Vancouver, by the way, so if anyone has any experience with Vancouver, you might recognize the difficulty of actually staying in Vancouver. On drier days, he biked to work. He, an engineer, it was unseemly. Meanwhile, his cousins back in Ukraine were somehow prospering. They worked easier jobs than he did, IT, marketing, communications. Yet their social media posts boasted newly acquired condos, breezy tours around the Mediterranean. One cousin bought himself a luxury car, used, but still, posted about how, quote, "If you work hard, you too can fulfill your dreams," end quote. Many of Pasha's relatives were employed by foreign companies eager to outsource work to this cheaper talent, but none tried to use their connections to emigrate. They seemed, Pasha had to admit, happy. And not just on a material level. One cousin opened a gallery as a hobby. Another spent his weekends DJing in refurbished factories. A childhood friend bought a cheap piece of land and turned it into an artist's colony. "Oh my God, have you been to Kyiv? You should totally go," a colleague said to Pasha, glowing after her carefully allotted 2-week vacation. No, he had not been to Kyiv, Pasha wanted to answer, because the city seemed foreign to him now, had moved on without him. Somehow his sunken ship of a country had resurfaced, jerry-rigged with a new engine. Suddenly its barnacles and cankerweed looked edgy and cool, and every night on this ship was a raging rave, and every night Pasha missed out on it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So here you are also working on the topic of identity and identity between your home country or a country of a region and Canadian identity. And I think it really, many people can relate to that. How do you feel? How do you feel yourself as a Canadian Ukrainian writer? Are you trying to reconnect now through, like, after this book, or did you try to do that before, or you tried to keep distance with the Ukrainian community? How do you identify yourself as a writer?
I think I'm still answering that question because I think the process of immigration means, at least for me, that my identity is very, very splintered, and it lives in multiple places and kind of in people who kind of are a piece of home. But I don't know. It's kind of like I'm still trying to figure all of that out, and I don't know even if my next book will be about Ukraine. I just don't know.
For sure, it's not the only one topic.
Yeah, but I kind of see myself as one foot out and one foot in each culture. And I thought of myself as quite Canadian before the full-scale invasion. And then it was almost like this process of being a foreigner again in your own country, because it's such an isolating thing to go through. I found that we here in North America have a very Anglo-Saxon approach to grief, and cataclysm. Like it's like a very, don't talk about it, don't ask about it, keep very stoic. So whereas I think the Ukrainian community is much more about like a collective sort of, you cry together, you laugh and you cry, but you talk about it, right? So that, so I'm still answering that question of identity. It's a rich one. Yeah.
Well, but it's an interesting experience, and I think it's just enriching, and I'm pretty sure that any choice will be the right choice. Lyuba, I want to invite you to read your poetry, but not that maybe tragic one.
Okay. I will read a poem which is called Про таких кажуть голі. Such people are called naked. And I will start with Ukrainian stanza, just one stanza, to give you an image of Ukrainian language. And after this, I will start with English. One. Про таких кажуть голі. Ти зняв футболку, я стягла сукню. Ти розчепив ремінь, я розстібнула станик. Ти опустив штани і віджбурнув шкарпетки. Я вивільнилася із білизни, чорної, тому краще її називати чорнизною. І от ми лежимо в ліжку двома смужками, як два білі хліби, обличчям один до одного. And English version, like much more. It was just a part. Such people are called naked. You took off your t-shirt. I pulled off my dress. You unbuckled your belt. I unhooked my brassiere. You let down your pants and kicked off your socks. I freed myself out of my panties, so scanty that better call them scanties. And now we lie in bed, two strips, like two white bread's loaves, facing each other. You touch my cheek with your hand. You run your hand lower down my neck. You trace my collarbones with your fingers. How nicely everything is made here, you utter. But suddenly, from behind your shoulder, your mom peeks out and says, Andrusha, did you wash your hands? You turn to face her, show your hands. She offers you fruit compote and goes to the kitchen. You turn back to me. Put your hands back where you got interrupted from the collarbone. It slides down to my breast, softly, as sea sound, and here I feel my dad's breath on my nape. Think your head, child, he whispers loudly. Think with your head, child. I turned away from you and see his unshaven face very close, and reply that I always think with my head. I turn back to you, and now my hand slides along your chest, and its downy hair bends under it, and now behind your back the bed creaks. Andrusha, have some fruit compote. You turn away from me, kiss her sonorously, and say, Mom, I want to be alone for a little while. And she replies, offended, it doesn't look like you are alone. And she goes off again. And now you are with me again, and your hands on my stomach glide slowly down, so it gets close and tender, so it gets so, and now I hear my grandmother's groaning. He says behind my back, I knew it. You are not a virgin anymore. See how you look changed. And I take your hands off my belly, turn halfway to my granny. With your hand, I straightened out her purple kerchief and say in loud voice, I'm still a virgin, Nan, and will remain untouched forever. I turn back to you, and here, over your shoulder, an old lady in a yellow kerchief peeps out, this time your granny. What female name ends in a consonant as if it were a man's? She asks. The answer is mine, but I keep quiet and take your hands off my hips. Snow falls between us. And like two toy soldiers, we lie like this, till morning. And in the morning, a cleaning lady comes, shows away the snow mound between us, and look into your green eyes for a long, long time. And you look at my brown nipples for very long. Then I say, let's get undressed. And one by one, I take off my dad, my grandma, my mom, my sister. And you take off one by one your mom, your brother, your childhood friend, your pickup coach. And we are bare now, wearing nothing at all. Such people are called naked.
Thank you, Lyuba. Thank you so much. I wanted to add that it was one of the poems from Apricots of Donbas. And what I like about the book is that if you're buying it in English or French, you can find lots of context that is kind of enriching the whole collection, and forward by translators of this collection, both in like you can have it in French and English. And I was also wondering about, you mentioned already your family, right? Like
it's not mine.
Yeah, it's
not
yours. Yeah, it's characters, of course. And you.
But name is mine actually. Talking about name which ends with consonant. This is Lyubov. This is like my name in Ukrainian language, and Lyuba it's just short version, and Lyubov means love in Ukrainian language. And talking about this name, it's like usually abroad people think think that this is a male name. Some person in magazine, literature magazine in Poland, wrote me a message, Mr. Lyubov, can you send me something? And I decided to change my name to use the short version from audience abroad, actually. And this name, I'm talking about my name, actually. Yes, that's right.
So I think that you just in the forward and of this poetry collection, there are lots of information about your family and what your family came through in Ukraine. And maybe you can just give a little bit.
Preface, you mean? Yes. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And
can you give a little bit more context on how this experience of relocation, how this experience of like moving from losing your home affected you as a writer, and how do you express yourself as a writer who is having this experience?
It's not so easy to make your family move when your parents are 60 something, because people don't want to change their life, their home. And my family, my parents and my grandma, they stayed under occupation till February 2014. Actually, it's almost a year they lived under occupation. And I created everything to force them leave this place for a few weeks at least. And it wasn't so easy, actually. And I needed to talk with them, with Ukrainian soldiers who helped me to work with my family and so on. It was a whole story. But the second thing, when some people or my friend parents just left their home, in 2 weeks everyone's want go back, and my parents as well, they wanted to go back, and my grandma as well. And this is, you need to find an approach to socialize your family. And I created literature festival. They started to live in actually in a village where was born Ukrainian futurist Mikhail Semenko. And I decided that with them we can create literature festival. And this festival made them famous in this 1,000 people village. And it helped, really. Sometimes culture can help with adaptation. And of course, this experience made me adult, actually. I was 27, 28 year old, and I became head of my family, like whole my family, of my parents, my grandma, and so on. And it wasn't really... I wasn't happy about it because everyone complained on me. They leave occupation, they leave the home, and all complaints were about me. It was me who was responsible for this. And but after this festival, my father took this position again, and now he is head of family. Yeah. And talking about me, I also tried to find an approach how can I work with literature, with language, to show this war. And I'm trying to find a way to show that my country is decomposing. This is decomposition, not only cities, but also language. And I'm trying to find a way. And also I realize that metaphorical ways sometimes doesn't work. And our literature became more straight. Sometimes it depends on, we have lots of metaphors, still have them, but sometimes we need to find direct way without this decoration at all, because there are kind of competition between reality and war, and all the time war will win in this competition because war is reality. It's more horrible than literature. It's more funny than literature because literature is just fiction. And also I try to find this way. How can I write about war? How can I show war is changing reality? And I find a way to show this through language, how language is changing during this war. And today, this event is my third today. And today I talked actually a lot of language change. And already gave lots of examples. I don't know if somebody was during this talk. No, yes. So I know one person was, okay. And probably I just repeat some of the examples. Talking about how rapidly reality changing during wartime, it's also forced language to change. Because language, it's kind of mirror of reality, internal and external. We invent words for table, for chairs, for microphone. We also invent lots of words about our emotions, about love, about anxiety, and so on. And there are kind of connecting vessels like literature and language and reality, kind of not mirror because it's quite different, but there are really strong connection between them. And when missiles, when we put inside something, also another one is changing, and the same situation with language. And for instance, talking about language, in Ukrainian language, we have special word for safe places, like special, this is just normal words, because during missiles attacks, we need to hide and we need to go to the safe place. Safe place, it can be, of course, bomb shelters, but I do not have near my house bomb shelters at all, and metro station is 10 minutes by car from my house. That's why I can use corridor. We do not have like windows in corridor. It's safer. Also, I can use bathroom, for instance. And these places became safe places for us. And when my friend of mine had chatted with her friend abroad, and he wrote him that she is in Baturevych, she realized she was flirting with him, because in Baturevych, naked women talking about this, everything about this stuff, but she wasn't flirting with him. It was about safe place, and this is about context. So we had kind of shift in our language, in our words, and it works like this. Also, we have electricity. This is my favorite example, because the meaning of this word is changing. Before the full-scale invasion, we took it for granted. We didn't mention we have this light around us. But after full-scale invasion, Ukrainian authority asked us to black out our windows because it's dangerous. It helped Russians, it helped Russian occupiers to work more precisely with artillery fire. And this is why we just felt electricity like something dangerous. But when Russia started to destroy our electricity infrastructure, electricity became something valuable for us. I remember how my mother called me and said, "We had so much electricity today. It was like a miracle," which happens because before they didn't have it for some days, for almost 5 days. When reality is changing, also language is changing all the time. And we invented special words, for instance, from missiles. This is words bledina means ugly beach in Ukrainian language. It's special created for missiles, for Russian missiles. And we call it like this. Or for instance, we have special words which called bavovna, or we can translate it like cotton. When we are talking about explosions created by Ukraine on Russian or occupied territories. Why? It came from Russian word chlapok, like chlapok or chlopak, chlapok, which means clap. Clap. They use clap, talking about explosion. They forget their words взрывы, like explosions, and they use instead clap. This is kind of, Orwell language. They trying to make events smaller, like bad events smaller, and they trying to replace words. But they also use Google Translate to translate their for bots. It's not so easy to talk because lots of people are coming. They also use these words. They just translated these words from Russian into Ukrainian, and in Ukrainian language through Google Translate, it was like cotton in Ukrainian language. It sounds like cotton, and Russian pretended to be Ukrainians and made kind of comments on Facebook and on social media, pretended to be Ukrainians, and it creates this confusion, these memes about cotton, and we just call this explosion on Russian or occupied territories like cotton. So when you use your washing machine, remember about it. You can put it on bottom cotton. This is about explosion about in Russia actually.
Yeah, we have remember, lots of memes, and I think that lots of these memes are mentioned by Maria. But I want to come a little bit back what you were saying about the personal choices, and I'm pretty sure that the choice to relocate your family was like super good. I understand that it was a huge danger for your family, and I know that Maria also is dealing with the topic of personal choices and respect to personal choices, especially about your grandfather, who is now, as I know, in Kherson. And Kherson is a city that is living now under the tents. I mean, like
To
nets.
protect
They're the
from
nets,
drones.
the nets
Nets.
along the major streets. Yeah.
Anti-drone nets that are protecting just civilians from drone safari, because Russians are hunting ordinary people, civilians on the street. And I can only imagine what you was coming through by, like, it's briefly described, not even briefly described in your book, but you're also touching these personal choices. And how did you approach it, and what was your lesson learned? Or
Well, I mean, so he's 88 years old, and my family really tried to get him out. Like, they were really trying to convince him to get out of Kherson as it was being occupied. And he was pretty adamant that he was not going to go. And luckily, I suppose for him, his hearing is not very good, and it's really been going. So I don't know if he's hearing the explosions as strongly as the other people. But yeah, I think part of writing this book was seeing the limitations of fiction in a way, because and then also nonfiction. So after it kind of derails, where the full-scale invasion comes into the book, there's this jousting between fiction and nonfiction, where I write these kind of diary-like entries, but then they turn into fantasy. And the fantasy is that I would somehow swoop into Kherson, and I would take him with my bare hands, and I would get him out. And I kept rewriting that same fantasy. And if I could just get the details right, I could do it, right? And then it would turn back into fiction. But then the fiction would hit this limit, right? Where something tragic would happen in real life, and then fiction started to be meaningless again. So it's this kind of uneasy jostling in the book. So I think that's how I approached it in my writing process, but also personally, that it would be this kind of alternating between fiction and nonfiction, fantasy, reality in my own head.
yeah, thank you for sharing. And I invite you to ask the questions if you have some. Otherwise, we will. Please, Rostislav.
In your book, Maria, the masculine name is Pasha, but Pasha is a diminutive from Pavlo or Paul in English. Was it done intentionally or not? If yes, why?
Oh, yes, very intentionally. He has 4 different names in this book, and it depends on how his kind of identity is placed on him, because he grows up with a Russian-speaking family, so they call him Pasha. When he becomes more anglicized as a kid in Canada, they start calling him Paul, kind of almost as a joke, but then it sticks. And then once he goes back to Ukraine and really tries to reconnect with his roots, that's when he assumes this name, Pavlo. So, yeah, I mean, it also harkens back to this tradition of Eastern European literature having 14 different names for one character. Had to play with that too. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, I just wanted to say I'm so happy to see this amazing, smart, brilliant, beautiful Ukrainian women here. Thank you so much. Thank you, Lyuba. Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Ira. And I know for Lyuba, it was, it took her 2 days, right, to get here. And this trip was not that easy. So I would like, appreciate especially that. And thank you so much for your writing. I've been offering a book to a lot of friends who speaks English and French here in Canada and in the United States and in France. And many told me it helped them to understand like our Ukrainian feelings better and what we live through better. And I hope to do so, you know, with Maria's book. It's an amazing writing and amazing read. Thank you so much. And with your permission, I would like to offer some flowers. It's a Ukrainian tradition. Like when we see beautiful women, we offer flowers, and that's not a préjugé. It's really, it works this way.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. We are grateful for your attention. I just want you to invite you to the back. We have Paragraph Bookstore, and if you want to have your copy signed by Lyuba or by Maria, please join us in the back, and we will continue in maybe not formal atmosphere. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup.